Greetings, citizens! Justiguy has arrived. So I, like many other people, have been enjoying the heck out of Dragon Ball FighterZ. It's an amazing looking, amazing feeling tribute to a series that so many of us have come to love, and it's just harder and harder to put it down. But thankfully its lobby system makes that pretty easy. In any case, I, like I imagine just about everyone else playing this game, also like to think about characters I'd like to see added to the game down the road. Characters that would not only be awesome additions and fun to play as, but fun to play against. With a season pass already available for purchase, we know characters are going to be coming eventually. The question is, who are they going to be? Well, rather than answer that question instead, I'm going to answer a different one. What characters do I want in the game? That's right, citizens, without any further delays, this is Justiguy's Top 10 Dream Dragon Ball FighterZ characters. And number 1 is, of course, Mr. Satan. Now, I think we can all agree that Mr. Satan is one of the best, most lovable characters in the entirety of Dragon Ball. He's fun, he's surprisingly relatable the more you think about him, seriously, and not only that, he'd actually be very easy to make into a playable character in a title like this, and not a joke one either. I mean, look at Yamcha. He's had jetpacks in games before to cover his lack of flying ability, so between that and all the other shenanigans he's known for getting into, I firmly believe we could have a genuinely fun character on our hands from Earth's savior, provided Arc System Works were willing to put in the effort. And looking at some of the other characters, I'd say they're definitely capable of doing so, that's for sure. Now, as for my number 2 pick, well, believe it or not, I'm gonna say Master Roshi. And you know, in a way, I'm kind of surprised Master Roshi isn't already in the game. And after catching up on Super, it's hard for me not to put him above Mr. Satan at that. Considering his prominent role in the ongoing Tournament of Power, not to mention his appearance in Resurrection F, it's not like the old Turtle Hermit's hurting for screen time these days, especially compared to actual FighterZ character Yamcha. Not only that, but between being able to Hulk out the Mafuba, his staff, that big old turtle shell, and maybe even milk bottles and stone throwing, I can't help but think Roshi, like Mr. Satan, is an amazing character just waiting to be made for this amazing game. Not to mention the antics waiting to happen with Goku, Krillin, even Piccolo, Vegeta, who knows who else. Android 21 maybe? In any case, next up is my number 3 choice, which is, well, Jocko. Well, Jocko was less than amazing in his Xenoverse 2 appearance, if I'm remembering it right. FighterZ has shown us that any character can become elite if they want to, and why would that change with Jocko? I can just picture him now, posing around like a goofball, zipping back and forth on his jet boots, using his ray guns, maybe just even poking people for some reason, I don't know. All kinds of fun, goofy stuff. Maybe he could even hop into his spaceship for some kind of crazy special attack. That might seem like an unorthodox choice compared to some of the more obvious ones out there, but hey, this is a list of characters I want in the game, not ones I expect, and the thing is, one of this game's strongest points is the character interactions and how it makes so many seemingly odd choices work really well. I mean, can you imagine getting Jocko alone with the likes of Frieza, Nappa, or the Ginyu Force? Well, if you weren't imagining it before, I bet you might be now. So, while you bask in the afterglow of that mental image, let's move on to number 4. And while I really want to say Whis here, like, I really want to say Whis, I know that they probably have to BS a lot of it for him. He's mostly only fought to train Vegeta and Goku, so that only really leaves us with a certain Deus Ex Machina skill of his, and that's not really something you can build a whole character out of. Sadly, this means I'm gonna have to skip over Whis. So instead, I'm gonna have to say that my number 4 pick is the Great Saiyaman. What's that, you say? Gohan is already in the game? Twice even? Ha ha! Oh, citizen, don't be silly. I don't know who this Gohan that you speak of even is. I said Great Saiyaman, not Gohan. Please see your doctor at your earliest convenience. I worry for your hearing. In all seriousness, though, yeah, I think the Great Saiyaman could be a ton of fun as an addition to the game. Plus, I freaking love the Great Saiyaman, you know. I kind of have to say this. And sure, yeah, we already have Gohan, but Saiyaman is different. He can work in wacky heroic antics into his fighting style. He can have all sorts of crazy dramatic flair. I mean, heck, he could even be a way to work Videl into the game as an assisting character through Saiyaman 2. Not unlike how Ginyu brings in the Ginyu Force and how 18 brings in 17. In fact, going about it that way, a moveset with Saiyaman 2 in mind from the start opens up all kind of possibilities for some especially heroic moves, don't you think? Plus, again, there's the character interaction angle as well. Not only with the existing characters in the game, because, you know, imagine the Great Saiyaman with Piccolo, Goku, Gotenks, heck, the Ginyu Force with Frieza, with Cell. but also with characters I've mentioned, like Mr. Satan and Jocko as well. Think of the possibilities! So, you know what? Yeah, Saiyaman and Saiyaman 2 are definitely my picks for the number 4 spot. As for number 5, well, speaking of characters tagging along, well, I gave this one a lot of thought, and I mean a lot of thought, but I'm actually going to have to say Caulifla. Of the Universe 6 Saiyans, I think she's the most distinct in the ways that arguably matter most for a character in a fighting game. Not only does she have cool, crazy red energy and energy attacks, which is actually pretty unique amongst the DBZ cast, which in turn makes her visually unique to look at when she's fighting, but her design is unique and her personality is perfect for a fighting game, making her a great choice to lead. And I say lead because I think Kale and Kaba should come with her. Now, if Super were longer, or if Fighters had room for a huge roster, I'd argue that maybe Kale deserves her own spot too, but right now I think integrating her into Caulifla's attacks is a good way to go about it. It allows you to include the character, and Fighters has been great about including the assisting characters in both attacks and the story, while still not bloating the roster with characters who don't have the material for it. As for Kaba, well, look, there's nothing particularly unique about the guy. Sorry, there just isn't. He's a rehashed Tarble and has since been overshadowed by Caulifla and Kale. He's not bad or anything, but I think he'd be better utilized as part of Caulifla. And that's even if Kale hypothetically were to have her own separate character slot. So sorry, Kaba. So yeah, believe it or not, rounding out my top 5, Caulifla is my last pick. Now who's next? Well, sliding into 6th place is... it's Raditz, alright? It's Raditz. But hear me out, just give me a minute here. From the fighting game perspective, he probably isn't gonna add much of anything. I get that. But if there's even a chance additional characters would get to add something to the story mode, to get to add to the character interactions in any way, or maybe they'd be able to be in a sequel story mode down the road, then yeah, I absolutely want Raditz in the game. As much as I take issue with certain aspects of Fighters story mode, and it's mainly the whole Earthling soul crap, Fighters has surprisingly solid, even great writing for all of its characters. The villains don't just get stupidly angry and act like generic troublemakers like they do in so many movies and games. They really do, I feel, act like themselves. And I don't know if you remember, citizens, but when Raditz came to Earth, he was doing it to pick up his brother. He ended up trying to kidnap his nephew, yeah, but, in the end goal was ultimately to reunite with his family and, go off and do evil Saiyan things, but it's not exactly the worst goal in the world for a villain, He didn't even attack Goku until it was clear Goku wasn't going to be coming along with him. I mean, he didn't even kill that farmer. Yeah, sure, he ravaged planets before coming to Earth, but so did Vegeta, and look at Vegeta now. As far as on-screen kills are concerned, I think Goku himself has done more than Raditz ever did. So sure, it might be easy to bring back Raditz and say he's also angry and also wants revenge and all that junk. I mean, heck, other games probably have done just that. Maybe it wouldn't even be out of character. Still, it's how that happens that matters, So darn it all, if any game could tackle the reunion of Raditz, Goku, and Gohan, of Raditz and Vegeta, in a way that I think I'd be happy with, in a way that I think I'd be satisfied with, I think it would be Fighters, or a Fighters sequel. So that's why Raditz is my number 6 choice for a future Dragon Ball FighterZ character. Now my 7th pick is... it might actually be my most controversial choice yet. That's saying something following Raditz, but I'm gonna have to say that my 7th and 8th picks are Mira and Toa. Not together, like I said with the Universe 6 Saiyans or with Saiyaman 1 and Saiyaman 2, mind you, but 2 separate characters. See, personally, I really want to see the Dragon Ball video games take more and more liberties as time goes on. I want to see them be able to make original content, original characters, do original things, all that good stuff. And Mira and Toa, well, they represent a lot of that. They are a lot of that. Now, some of you might not realize this, but they're not just original characters made for Xenoverse. They started off in Dragon Ball Online, and they've since spread not only to Xenoverse later, but to Dragon Ball Fusions and to Dragon Ball Heroes. I bet they're even in Dokkan Battle or whatever the heck the mobile game is called as well. Not only that, but they're both pretty unique, both visually and in terms of how they fight. And being video game characters, I'd say there's probably a lot more leeway for how they can be made to fight in this game. In turn, that might give Arc System Works a lot more room to make more exciting characters than when they stick to one strictly from the anime series. Meanwhile, as tempting as it is to say Time Patrol Trunks should be the 9th character on this list, I don't think he'd actually play differently enough to be worth an inclusion, so no dice there for me. Instead, my ninth pick is actually one that I'd really put a lot higher if not for the fact that they're technically already in the game through another character. So, to compromise, I decided to lower their rank on this list, given that, but still keep them on it all the same. In other words, my ninth pick is Super Android 17. No, not that one. You know which one I mean. Now, I've always liked Android 17, and now, not only has 17 gotten a ton of new tricks to play with from Dragon Ball Super, but he's gotten interactions with other characters that would be a ton of fun to see get fleshed out, even just a little. Thanks to Super, as far as the games are concerned, you can't just call him a tag-along for Android 18 anymore. He's got stuff to call his own now, and even if Super refused to show us the pictures of his family, they exist. He's his own character more and more than ever before, and I'd love to see if FighterZ or a future FighterZ installment could give 17 the treatment that I think he's definitely come to deserve. Now for my final pick, I'm pretty torn. Well, I could just be sneaky and say, and here's where we go over 10 choices, I'm not gonna do that. Now, part of me wants to say, believe it or not, the Magical Girl Trio from Universe 2. They've got a concept that I genuinely think could work really well in a fighting game, especially when you can make them a set of fighters in a single character. I bet they could really be a lot of fun to play as. He'll be in Xenoverse 3? I don't know. Regardless, there's a lot of room for interpretation there, and in another game, Xenoverse 3, I'd be very open to the idea. But FighterZ has managed to make a game that not only is a lot of fun, it sticks to the source, and it makes it fun for the people who care about the source. And that's something that you're really hard-pressed to do as a game developer, or at least it seems like it. In this respect, I don't think those characters are even worth mentioning here. I don't even know their names, honestly, so, not really something I should be bringing up. Now, similarly, another thought that crossed my mind was Champa. But rather than him fight like Beerus, as I'm pretty sure he does in Xenoverse 2, I'd say he should sit on his ass and his attacks would be him calling out the rest of the Universe 16. Magetta, Bottomo, Frost, those guys. Alternatively, you could have Frost be the main character and he could do that with Magetta and Bottomo. But even then, fun as those ideas sound on paper, while that kind of thing does like it could work with the Universe X Saiyans like I mentioned earlier, I feel like it might be pushing it here. And that's when it dawned on me. I know exactly who I want my last choice to be. Citizens, my number 10 pick for a FighterZ DLC character is another original character. I mean, think about it. A made-for-FighterZ character would be fun to play by default because they'd have that much more room to work on them. They'd undoubtedly be unique and memorable because, as either DLC or just an update meant to draw players back, they couldn't just throw something together. It'd have to be something that brings people in. Something that people would look at and go, yeah, this is worth paying money for. Or, yeah, this is worth picking up the game again for. Something like that. While Super's new characters have been varying degrees of exciting, to put it nicely, the same can't be said for the new video game characters, I feel, few and far between as they've been. Android 21 built up a fan base fairly quickly, and as I mentioned earlier, Mira and Toa have more than established themselves as part of the series by now. So yeah, I think another new character would be the perfect addition. Heck, maybe 10 new characters, screw my list. Or, whatever. Maybe they can just put in Vegito and Gogeta and Kid Goku and Broly and, I don't know, Broly Super Saiyan 3. Super Saiyan Blue Broly. That's what people really want, right? Oh, I don't know. I am just a guy after all. So what about you, citizens? Are there any characters you'd really like to see enter FighterZ? How about my list? Any of those you'd really not like to see get in? Any of those that you really would? Well, let me know. For now, though, I'm afraid that this is